Hey, it's me. So today, as you can tell from the title, I have some shit I need to talk about. So as you can tell, I'm currently doing a voiceover, which is not my typical style. Truthfully, I had filmed this video twice already, and I've been on and off deciding whether I even wanted to film it at all for about a week now. But here I am, and I have some things to talk about. So I have a ton of disclaimers to get out of the way before we get started on the actual content. First being, yes, I did film this video twice already. They were I turned on the camera and filmed myself talking to the camera. I decided to delete both of those and just do a voiceover because it's much easier for me to articulate my vocabulary and my feelings this way. This video is intended for an Indigenous audience. I am here speaking to my fellow Native people about concerns that I have over some things that I've been seeing lately in regards to the murder of Mr. Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement. With that being said, I am not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. I'm just trying to forward this conversation that has already begun. I am not all-knowing. I'm still learning things myself. Many of these ideas that in this video are not original to me. I learned them, but my feelings about them are original and real. Again, the conversation already started. I'm just sharing some thoughts of other people's that resonated with me, and maybe you can learn from them too. Because that is my aim here. My aim is to put this information out there, and hopefully anybody watching this, they can listen to these thoughts and maybe learn something from themselves, even if they are guilty of some of the things that are mentioned in this video. As my good friend Miracle said, you don't have to go up on that hill and die there. You can come down from that hill and do better. So if you've done anything in this video, you don't have to defend these actions to the grave. You can listen to why these actions made others uncomfortable and then move on to either agree to disagree or accept the criticism and change. In addition, throughout this video, please remember the experience of Black natives who are in a position where they feel unsafe because they are Black and they feel a lack of support because they are Native. You are all in my thoughts, and I recognize your unique experience. So the first thing that I want to talk about is really something that actually inspired me to go forward with making this video, and it might take the longest time to talk about as well. So I'm going to start with the topic of wearing regalia to protests. Some of you might be real mad at me for saying these things, and some of you might agree with me, and maybe even a little bit of both. But basically, I have mixed feelings about this whole wearing regalia to protest thing. I think it's okay to do in certain contexts, and that it's not okay to do in other contexts. Upon thinking about this, I thought about why do we wear regalia in the first place? And it's what natives do. We hold spiritual value in certain articles that many of us believe provide true power in situations of need. Take, for instance, in Minneapolis, there was a circle formed of jingle dress dancers that did a healing dance for the movement and for the death of Mr. Floyd. What is key here is the fact that this jingle circle was most likely well organized. It wasn't just a bunch of jingle dancers that happened to show up in their regalia. Another key point is that you need to actually have belief in the power of jingle dresses, or the belief of power in your regalia and in your dance. Otherwise, your intentions are wrong. But even so, even if you want to wear your jingle dress to these protests and offer the power of your dress in your healing dance, you need to respectfully organize still. You need to do it respectfully in a way that you are gaining permission from the leaders of this discussion, which in this case are not us. The leaders of this discussion are the Black population, and you need to respect them. Without respect, then your dance and your participation is moot. And maybe ribbon skirts aren't necessary at protests, and I'm just learning this now as somebody who has worn ribbon skirts to protests. But we should also be mindful that if it's a safe protest and that a person wearing the skirt is conducting themselves respectfully, then it's not our business what they're wearing. But I hear you guys. I understand that sometimes you just get this sinking feeling that it's not okay to do that. And I think that those instances involve just an element of trying to steal the spotlight. As in they're standing there like the native is here, and then they march in front of the crowd and they start dancing and just acting like they're a celebrity and everybody should be thankful that they are there fighting for the good fight. What do you call a subtweet that comes in video form? It's wrong to wear regalia and ribbon skirts to protests when your intentions aren't to use the garments for what they're for, when your intention is to gain attention on yourself. That's wrong. I am not saying that everybody that wears a ribbon skirt or regalia to protest is attention seeking or doing things ill-intentioned. All I'm saying is that sometimes I do question the intentions of a few people. And something that we're seeing right now is the fact that these protests throughout the nation, especially in major cities, are rather intense. Police and authorities are assaulting crowds in more than one way, and it's not exactly the safest place, especially to wear something that either somebody else put in so much work for, or you paid a lot of money for, or you put in the hard work yourself. And most of all, if you're wearing something that you hold such high spiritual value for, then why would you not protect it? Why would you wear it to a dangerous place? You're just going to ruin your nice regalia, your nice beadwork, your fully beaded moccasins. You're going to get tear gassed in your dress, trapped on the Manhattan Bridge in your dress. Not to mention, these garments that we wear are incredibly unique. Most of the time, they're one of a kind, and they can help identify you either after the fact, or they can single you out in the crowd so that, you become a target, you become attacked. But remember, not all protests are the same. Some are small and or peaceful, and some are intense. You kind of just have to read the room. Do you need riot gear? Is it that unsafe? Or is it safe enough to wear your regalia and offer spiritual support? Moving on to the next topic, I would like to talk about wearing MMIW stuff and pushing other Native issues at these Black Lives Matter protests. Now, don't get me wrong, it is incredibly important to raise awareness for MMIW and other Native issues, such as clean water, environmental justice, protection of our medicines, just to name a few. But similar to the idea of wearing regalia for attention is the fact that it's wrong and your intentions are to shift the conversation to you and Native issues. Offering Indigenous solidarity and support means showing up and fighting from the sidelines and supporting the leaders of the conversation, not inserting ourselves into the conversation to talk about ourselves. And with that being said, my next issue is taking the Black Lives Matter hashtag and turning it into Native Lives Matter. Because again, as I mentioned before, that's theft of the conversation and the spotlight. The issue being focused on here are Black lives. Black Lives Matter is literally the name of the movement. It's the coined term for the tragedy that is wrongful deaths of Black lives, murders of Black lives, and the term was coined by Black people. Not only do we have our own terms, but Black Lives Matter, I don't know how many times this needs to be explained, Black Lives Matter does not mean that Black lives are the only lives that matter and that everybody else is exempt. It is their term for their injustice, for their maltreatment. Yes, Natives do experience maltreatment. Natives do experience racism and police violence and a lot of the same things that Black people experience. But we have our own times to advocate for those causes. Right now, the conversation is about the Black population. Natives, step aside and offer your support. It's not about us right now. And when we make it about us, it is a blatant disregard for the Black population and what they are experiencing right now. The next issue that I have seen is the act of criticizing the protest styles throughout the nation and how basically the Black population should respond to what they're experiencing. One example is advocating for peace and love, which isn't all that bad until you're telling people what to do and telling them that you guys should not be destroying your own communities and acting like Target is a community. Another example of this that I've seen shared is this meme where the top is a picture of MLK marching in a row of people, and the text reads, "I support this." And the bottom of the meme shows people looting the Target in Minneapolis, and the text reads, "I don't support this." The most important point of this is the fact that it is not our place to be telling anybody who is a member of a group that we are not a member of how to conduct themselves and how to fight for their own issues. And as natives, we should understand this already. We don't like people telling us how to conduct ourselves in regards to our issues. So what makes us think that we can tell the Black community what to do? In addition, as natives, we are no stranger to this form of protest. Y'all should know that, in the words of MLK, riots are the voices of the unheard. What do you think we did in the past while fighting for our lands, our people, our sovereignty? As natives, you should already have it in your blood to say, fuck capitalism, fuck that Target, fuck these systems, and not criticize any attacks on them, on these systems, on capitalism, because these systems that Black Lives Matter are currently fighting against right now, these systems are the same ones that we've been fighting against as well. But let's remember, just because we've been fighting against these systems doesn't mean that it's our time or our place to make it about us. Let's remember that is the Black community's time and place. And with that being said, if you are out at these protests and you are a non-Black person, whether you're Native or not, if you start the riots, if you're the first to throw the brick, if you're the first to vandalize a building or tear a statue down, whatever else is being done, then you are doing more harm to the Black community than you are helping them. I'm not saying that I think the looting and the riots are wrong. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that when we are not the leaders of this discussion, when we are the followers of this discussion, then we need to follow the cue of the leaders in the discussion. And in this case, we really need to pay attention to our specific area. Just because there are riots in Minneapolis or wherever else there are riots, it doesn't mean that you need to take those riots home, look around, read the room. Because what happens is when you, a non-Black person, starts some shit and throws a brick at a window, that broken window gets blamed on Black Lives Matter. Your actions get pinned on a group that you're trying to help. So it's very counterproductive. This next issue is going to go by fairly quickly. That's tragedy makeup. Tragedy makeup. Stop. Just stop. Don't write "I can't breathe" across your lips or your eyes or whatever. When I first filmed this video, those first 2 times, I did mention in both filmings that I hadn't seen any natives do this. But I've seen it now. This person, they took the red handprint and made it black. No more tragedy makeup. And that is regarding both the current climate with Black Lives Matter and the death of Mr. Floyd and Miss Taylor. But it also applies to MMIW looks as well. I'm just going to throw that in there because that's something that we've been seeing for a while, and a lot of people like myself have been very uncomfortable with it. Tragedy makeup is bad taste, and it literally does nothing for the movements but offend people and, quite frankly, come off as clout chasey. Now this next part is a little complex, just like the wearing regalia part, and that would be photo shoots. Now let me start off by saying that I'm not saying that every person who shares protest pictures online have had bad intentions or are clout chasing with these pictures. Most of the time, these pictures are positively impactful. They show the power of that specific protest, and they may inspire others to come out. But besides the fact that it should be the injustice and the lack of respect that motivates people to join protests and speak up rather than being inspired by a photo. But sometimes that's all a person offers to a situation, a photo. That's the only form of activism that's visible on their social media. Not links, no information, no criticism of anything, just a picture of you in your beautifully fully beaded moccasins and your fist up. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, but they also say that actions speak louder than words. And these pictures can sometimes come off as a lack of action rather than genuine support. Sometimes they look like a check on your checklist, sort of, see, I'm doing it, rather than a genuine desire for Black liberation. But I could be wrong. All of us could be wrong about that. Not everything shows up on social media. True activists don't feel the need to share everything they do. So how can we measure everyone on their scope of activism if the most authentic people privatize so much? Do we rely on our intuition? It's not always accurate. Sometimes it is, but I have seen time and time again people being wrongfully accused of being performative. And then some people who appear to be somewhat performative are not being accused at all. Maybe we can ask each other if we've done more, or ask each other to do more. We need to be realistic with each other about how much we can do, how much one person can do and offer, especially in regards to what a specific person can offer if they have poor mental health or lack of access. And when we are realistic with each other, then we can offer real criticism to those who need it. But most of all, something that we all need to work on is accepting criticism and being open to criticism. And to be honest, even if your fellow native appears to be shitting on you, they're most likely not hopeful that you'll respond well to their criticism, and that's why they're being rude. Change their opinion of you then. As I mentioned in the beginning of this video, and quoting my dear friend Miracle again, when you go up on that hill, you don't have to die on that hill. You can come down from that hill. And then you have 2 choices from this point. You can either accept the criticism and move forward, or you can agree to disagree. And if you're on the giving end of the criticism, then, well, if they don't want your criticism, then it's neither your moccasins or your reputation being ruined. So keep fighting the good fight. So, well, I've aired all of my gripes, and I have a few more things to say. Basically, I just want everybody to remember that the Native experience and the Black experience are very different. We are two oppressed groups, but we are oppressed in different ways, and there's no need to play oppression Olympics. There's no need to try and decipher who has it worse. And when that happens, that's when people try and derail times like these where the Black Lives Matter is at the forefront of fighting for equality and justice. Remember Black natives. Don't erase them. Show up. Show up physically or offer practical support. Can you donate? Can you share information? Share links? Can you listen to police scanners? Anything, really. And something that I found interesting, a piece of information that a mutual of mine had shared, was the fact that Black Lives Matter has showed up for us many times. They specifically brought up Standing Rock and how Black Lives Matter had gone there to the protests, and they offered their support, and they fought on the sidelines just like we should be doing right now. And all of these things that I mentioned in this video, sort of the stealing spotlight and whatnot, they didn't do those things. They didn't steal the spotlight and jump in front of the crowd and start dancing in front of our protesting crowds. They didn't do that stuff. They offered respectful support, and we need to reciprocate that support and reciprocate that respect. And for the love of God, stop saying the N-word. Stop using Black culture, elements of Black culture. We have our own cultures. Well, I hope this was helpful. I hope I didn't anger you too much. If you have any agreements or disagreements, leave them in the comments section. I really hope that everyone is helping Black Lives Matter fight the good fight, and I really wish well for everybody. And yeah, so Chimigwech for listening, and I'll see you on the next one. Bama Pequodman.